I am back home after the hurricane, finally getting around to looking at the Greenger from the last track day. The problem I had to end the other track day early was the rear tire. It would not hold air. I repeatedly put additional air in it and it would leak out within a track session. So here today I'm removing the rear wheel from the Greenger and then realized I should probably record this in case I need future reference. Previously I decided I'm going to change the wheels on this, mainly because I don't like the spokes because it requires inner tubes, which is what I think failed in this case. So I am going to take the wheel off. I've already started before I realized I should probably record this. What I have here on my tire machine is a new set of wheels that I had already bought because I was planning to switch to tubeless tires. So I have two brand new tires that I'm going to use because the Greenger tires are not exactly track grade. So I'm going to swap out the wheel sets and go from there. The other thing I did with this wheel set was I bought a new rear sprocket so I can leave the original wheel as is. And I also had to purchase a brake disc. This is the same diameter as stock on the Greenger. This is a pit bike part I got on eBay, 20 bucks. The sprocket was about $100 because it had to be custom made. This wheel set has 4 bolts and it's a specific inner size here, diameter. Nothing matches standard pit bikes. The usual sprockets go up to 43. This one needs a 46, I think, to work right. Stock Greenger is 48. Okay, with that said, I have the wheel set ready to go. I have put the pieces together in a crude fashion. Looking at the Greenger, here's our chain adjusters that came off, but here are the wheel spacers. So the first thing I'm going to do here is check and put the wheel spacers on the SV Racing Parts wheels. These wheels are for a Kayo Mini-GP bike. They are a little bit wider and they don't have spokes in it, so I can run it tubeless. This wheel is very, very narrow. It is literally smaller than the front wheel on my Kayo race bike. It's also the exact same size as the front tire on this bike, which I'm also going to replace the wheel. But for today, I'm just doing the rear. Spacers seem to fit correctly, so yay, I don't think we need to change any bearings. I'm going to check the axle fit next to make sure we're on the right direction with the stock Greenger axle. Here's the stock Greenger axle that I removed with the wheel. We need to check this on the SV Racing Parts wheels. And looks like it fits perfectly in the bearings that are on there. So I don't need to change the bearings out for a different size. So yay, the next step is to start checking the fit and see if this is going to fit on the bike. These spacers, I'm pretty sure we're going to need different size spacers to make everything fit up, but we'll find out. I now have a tire mounted on my new wheel, and this is good to go for the next piece. The other thing that came with the SV Racing Parts wheels are a wheel set spacer kit for the front and rear wheel. We're only working on the rear one for right now. To use these spacers, they're captured, which means the spacer fits into the wheel bearing. So I have to change the wheel bearings in order to use these with the Greenger bike. Now, on this one, these stock spacers, I tried them on the wheel just over there as it is, and they don't fit. The opening here is just a little bit too narrow to get the spacers in. So this distance on the SV Racing's part wheel from here to here is just a little bit wider. So I don't know if I use the captured wheel spacers, if that will work. but that's the next thing to check out. So before I do that, I am going to measure this distance and then check the other wheel spacers over there and compare the measurement and see if it matches, if it's wider, narrower, whatever. Okay, here is the very crude measurement of the spacer spacing. So looks like we get roughly 95 millimeters. Something else I want to point out here is there are these steel plates that bolt to the aluminum swing arm. That takes up some of the spacing as well. If you look at this side, there's a steel plate sandwiched between the spacer and the swing arm. Now, it is possible if we remove this spacer, I can get a little more gap in there and make things work. However, my concern here, show you this, is the width of the wheel bearing. This spacer, it does not have a whole lot of gap. And I think an aluminum casting in here against that, there's not going to be much aluminum to spacer contact, and it's going to gall and just kind of mess up the interface there. So I am guessing that's why they included this piece. But if I remove this, I could get a little more space in and maybe get the wheel on. But the spacer isn't very wide, so I don't feel very comfortable about doing that at this point. Just a comment. Okay, here's another quick perspective. Here are the SV Racing Parts spacers compared to the stock Greenger spacers. So the right side looks like it's about the same width, but the good news is the aluminum spacer here is just a little bit shorter, just a touch, which is the problem I'm running into with the stock spacers. There's just not quite enough room, so that's good. This one's not even close. There's no way I could use that SV Racing part spacer. There's too big a difference. But my thought here is if I use this spacer, which is just a little bit shorter, and this spacer on the other side, I may be able to make it work. I really would rather have a captured spacer like that, but that's going to be my approach to make the rear wheel on the Greenger work. Let's find out how it comes together. Back here after doing a little bit of the work, I removed the wheel bearing from this side and put in the SV Racing Parts captured wheel spacer, the aluminum one here. So it has a little lip on the front of the spacer that slides into the wheel bearing. That allows the spacer not to fall out, so it makes it a little easier to insert the wheel. So what I'm going to do is now try to install the wheel using that on the left, and then the stock Greenger spacer on this side, and we'll see if it fits together. Main thing right now is just for the wheel to fit into the swing arm properly. I'd like to have captured spacers on both sides, but that's a project for another day. It's 90 degrees out and humid as hell here, and I'm literally going to die if I spend much more time out here working on this. Okay, time to cut to the quick answer here. Sparing you some of the challenges. Everything's bolted up. I am using the captured SV spacer there. On this side, I am using the stock spacer, and everything lines up. So that is great news. Here's the bad news. Up here at the front, the tire is hitting the swing arm right in there. It's kissing the swing arm, but that's gonna lead to not good things. But to address that one, let's observe this. Chain slack, and note where the axle is. It's not all the way forward, but it's very almost all the way forward. If we slide it back with a longer chain, we should be able to get the tire to stop rubbing on the swing arm there. Again, it just barely touches, but so we just need a little bit of clearance. Unfortunately, that means a new chain needs to be put on. The good news is a new chain is about 30 bucks. So that's the avenue I'm gonna pursue here. and I will cut to the after on that one and see if we can make it work. I'm not going to show all the details because that's just turning wrenches and such. Back on the bike, it's in park. Now it's armed and ready. Okay, that seems to stop just fine. Okay. Proof that it's rideable. Now we need to make it right and fix the chain later. Okay, I just took this for a quick ride. Just a check ride at this point. Everything's bolted up. The new wheel, tubeless, is in place, but you can see right here from riding, it's rubbing the swing arm. So it cleaned off all the go-kart rubber that had accumulated on the tire, and it's nice and clean. But I literally rode it a couple hundred feet. The reason it's not perfect, and I'm just gonna leave it as is there's no chain slack here. I need a longer chain to be able to move this back and get it to stop rubbing on the swing arm. So that at least accomplishes the goal of having a tubeless tire that's not constantly losing air on the back of the bike, so at least it can be ridden now. But I did not have a spare chain in my toolkit or in my spares box. So I'm gonna have to order one, put a longer chain on that, pull it back on the swing arm, and I think we're in business at that point. The chain adjuster might need a slightly longer bolt because I'm gonna use more of the travel, but I'm not sure how long those are. Anyway, haven't adjusted them since the chain just isn't long enough to do what I need. Anyway, that's the progress for today because I'm gonna die in the heat otherwise. That's where I'm gonna wrap it up. Actually, let's do a quick ride. For a final walk around here, that is a much wider rear tire, and it's definitely rubbing on the swing arm there. But yeah, that is huge compared to the stock one. It doesn't need the traction. Tire makes no difference size-wise. The bike doesn't have a huge amount of power that it's going to be sliding, but yay, good news, tubeless tire, no inner tube to leak. The front's going to be a separate project, but mission accomplished. We have a tire that holds air.